Tony Gilroy is such a gem to this franchise. Just very unfortunate that he's leaving, but a certainly bang of an exit, giving us a show filled with mature themes in relation to our real world politics. Characters with their own personal disputes, motivations, which makes for some interesting interactions. And yeah, the acting is well done. It's astonishing the amount of care that is put into this project, and bravo to everyone involved. You got me here, Disney. I didn't think you'd ever pull off some scenes here, but you did. So cheers to that. Rogue One was the very first spin-off live action film, never done before. The only live action films we've gotten were the main titles. Tony was one of the writers for Rogue One and worked as a secondary director to Gareth Edwards, as he did reshoots for the film. How much or how little, who knows. But this opened immense potential for Tony, as he was hired on to helm the Andor project.
Perfection.
My gosh, some serious shit was put into this show. And I will be first to admit, I always viewed Andor as this uninspiring, boring, lack of personality kind of character, who was clearly the back burner to Jyn Erso. He was by far the weakest, and for good reason. And yeah, the Andor show was simply unappealing at the start. Not just me, for majority of fans. And well, Star Wars was in a bad shape post Rise of Skywalker. I can safely say I will shoot my doubtful self in the foot for not realizing the potential this show really had. When someone has a story to tell of the most boring character from a movie, you have my utmost attention now. The trailers really appealed to most. A serious, grounded take on Star Wars. No Jedi, no Sith nonsense. Just a bigger look on the political dealings within the Empire and what led to the emergence of the rebellion, and using a character who isn't that big like Andor and his perspective on the state of affairs. Well, color me shocked, season 1 nailed home in a lot of areas, many close to home, and the more inner circle of the Empire how dark its reign is, using many perspectives of each planet such as Ferrix. We saw moments of desperation leading to a whole nother problem. We were to believe possibly it's going to be about Andor searching for his sister, but really it became a manhunt as killing Imperial officers resulted in a whole world shift for the character. We saw big moments, secrecy, treachery, and how prison systems work in the Empire. One Way Out being the best episode of season 1, as we saw an inmate so forwards in this very system he fought and freed the unjust. And the end. Villains who are very devious with their plans, such as Dedra interrogating Bix with a psycho doctor's machine of pain, and who knows what was being implemented in her mind. Such great clever writing. Many perceived Andor as an outlier of the Disney Plus shows, whether he had criticisms such as doesn't feel like Star Wars, need more laser swords and magic powers, or we had so many bad quality shows with writing close to dreadful. Only saving grace at obtaining a solid viewership is through nostalgia. Kenobi is a great example. Fight of the century and the ending bout between Vader and Obi-Wan completely degrades Kenobi's intelligence, and having no reason to now let Vader rain even more terror on the galaxy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Let alone the visuals having a gray, colorless scale. Same studio which made The Last Jedi. Despite not being very good, it's a very colorful film. Well, yeah, you can argue it's a film and Kenobi is a show, but go ahead, show a casual a shot from Andor. 95% would say it looks like something from a movie. And yeah, Andor was warranted for a season 2 run, as Tony clearly had something more to tell. The season delves more into deeper scale scenes which up the ante and deplorable lengths the Empire willing to take to achieve their goals, and the cause and effect on all fronts from the Senate to the people of Gorman. Tony was a madman this entire season, especially the last 6 episodes. Anyways, let's break down the plot. Andor is on a mission for Luthen, infiltrating an Imperial station with the help from the inside, a lady named Naya who's afraid of being caught from her superior officers. But that's a very nice change in character where we see Andor taking more of a leadership role as a rebel. Same character was perceived as a coward in season 1 and has finally taken another step.
You made this decision long ago. The Empire cannot win.
I will say though, I wasn't a fan of the turf war plot right after. Sure, it's to emphasize a conflict, that not all rebels are on the same page, but simply dragged for too long. Despite the lack of evolution of Andor's subplot, the other areas were far more intense. Gut-wrenching, well-directed to create a sense of dread. Build-up of a plan to retrieve the minerals, only on Gorman, for the Death Star's construction. The mining would destabilize the planet and destroy any ability to inhabit. Gormans feel a sense of oppression are completely against the Empire's dealings. So the show hits very close to home, where the Empire needs to fabricate a plan to paint the Gormans on the wrong side of the conflict. Oh yeah, and they take it pretty far. Empire needs a reason to liberate the planet for their resources, painting the Gormans as violent, vicious rebels, in order to persuade most of the Senate, so no further questions are made on the massacre as an unjust act. Manipulating the media, setting up the conflict, setting up the cargo at the right time, just building on building a reason to destroy the Gorman people. The show also doesn't shy away from breaching the Empire's most heinous officers. A very controversial episode when an officer is aware of Bix not being from the planet, he tries to force her into sexual favors in return of turning the other way. Before he can do such a thing, Bix bashes and beats him to death. It's a sequence which has forced a false perception on the show. The purpose was to see the growth in her mental and physical strength in moments where she feels weak and vulnerable. It's a payoff to her visions of being, can't use that word on YouTube, and she gains her strength to fight back against her superior. Andor certainly has a lot of balls where they tick off most of the grounded, despicable stuff that happens in a war. And people have lost their mind online and have completely braided and downplayed the show and straight up thrashed it. I mean, hey, it's not like Star Wars hasn't reached down the barrel before. Andor and Bix hide out on Coruscant in one of Luthen's safe houses, while he provides various missions for Andor that he has to go on to secure the rebellion's growth. While at the wedding, Mon Mothma is in a predicament herself. On one end, her banker who's been financing a rebellion pretty much is having doubts and won't have a bribe for an answer. And on the other hand, she has parental issues with her daughter. And on the other end, her husband suspects she's having an affair with that very banker. Crazy amount of stress on her head, and Luthen behind the scenes orchestrating an off-screen assassination of Tay. It's a sequence which is very well directed, dialogue which hides the true motives of each character. Writing is far more mature, and scenes where visuals play a huge role of what a character is going through. As Mon Mothma is getting drunk and dancing away, her angst and apprehension she's feeling, where the music and shaky cam actually plays a pivotal role as Mothma's world begins to crash and burn. I wanted to have this section completely dedicated to the arc is probably some of the best, if not the best arc in Star Wars television. Yes, and it competes with the Mandalore arc from the Clone Wars. As the plaza opens up, the Empire lay the groundwork for a massive massacre, a reasoning being set in place to mine the entire planet without any resistance. When all the pieces are set, just such a horrific imagery, and scenes don't shy away from showing to you at face front. The calm perfectly dragged out to intensify the situation. The lack of music with nothing but bodies being flailed and gunned down shows us a very grounded reality on what happens in a war. How some political empires spin situations to favor them, whether it's through the media or through self-made scenarios, which paints them as the heroes and in the right. It's a visceral moment in Star Wars and unravels the bigger picture in a cohesive manner. Cyril, being the front of it all, sees how much of a pawn he is to the ruthless Empire.
You gonna tell me what this has really been about? You tell me it's a rumor, and I will throw you out that window.
Balls for Tony not to make Cyril a redemption character, but a complete sore loser. He always was. When confronting Andor in the plaza, he sees red, while Andor sees another Monday in front of him. That "who are you" line is very powerful, because Cyril based his entire life on one man's action. Loyal to a cause, he made himself a loose piece, as he was pathetic all this time. He was so caught up in his promotions that he now begins to question his side. But any second thought, he gets shot in the head before any needless redemption arc can be played. An Agent Kalos 2.0 and a fucking overplayed trope that isn't needed and the writing knew. A consequence for being a blind loyal soldier and getting shot by the man you played to death's doors. Gosh darn it, I can go on forever how complex these 3 episodes made every character. But for the time's sake, this is only the second last episode of the Gorman arc. The real nail biter was in the Senate, when Mon pretty much can't hold any longer and unleashes a cold line that sends chills down anyone's spine. His name carries so much weight as his officers embodied who he is. It's his empire. When you watch his rise in the prequels on how he was built up politically, but having that Sith motive, he has a sense of aura in this show, despite not physically being present. So Mon Mothma murmuring old Sheev's name, yeah, she's pretty much cooked. But Luthen was well aware of it not ending well, and now the final arc was merely his entire impact. So much foreshadowing through season 1, so much mystery that the final arc centered around that very question, who is Luthen? Introduce us of how Kaya became Luthen's assistant, how much influence his teachings has had on her. He's a man full of pride and has become necessary evil for the greater good. He'll kill to secure a better future, and getting an actor like Skarsgård helped tremendously to get the character across audiences, including myself. The most potent line delivery when he meets Dedra, who has nothing left but the Empire.
It's everywhere now. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to disgust you.
Tony played the mystery card perfectly for Luthen, not spoon-feeding us every detail, but finding out who he is in between the lines. While others might have morals, Luthen knows you have to fight fire with fire to win a war. He knew he fought for as long as he can, but got the job done. And Andor being his ace on both sides of the rebellion, only he could have vouched for Luthen and who he was.
Luthen Rael died for this.
That final arc was simply a bittersweet ending to the show that had a proper beginning, middle, and end. The forming of the rebellion, how much dirt one must put on their hands so the galaxy can stay clean. It elevates Rogue One enormously, as Andor is now a well-established character, a needed backstory, and a very brilliant one. Andor is just too good for the most amount of low-quality shows we've been getting in today's Star Wars. I mean, quality in all sense. No joke, this is the type of creativity we need, a show with actual care, a writer who knows what he's doing despite a studio desperately trying to interfere and overcomplicate scenes with needless spoon-fed writing. Look at the entire Skywalker saga 1-6 and the projects which were well received TV shows wise in between. The rise and fall of the Empire is some of the best large-scale storytelling you can do. Sure, flawed with some of the projects, but the story has a consistent narrative with likable characters who have meaningful arcs and payoffs. These projects showcase the heart and stay true what makes Star Wars an epic franchise. Also, props to Andor for not caving to put in Jedi or Sith involvement with lightsabers and mythical powers. It knew the identity it needed to be and stuck with it. Just unfortunate we have to go from this to Mandalorian Grogu as Star Wars Projects returns to theaters. Anyways, that's it for me guys. See you on the next one.